Good evening. Hi, my name is Maura Riley. I'm the director of the Zimmerli. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on a rainy, cold night. I want to start the evening by recognizing the land upon which we stand tonight is part of the ancient homeland and traditional territory of the Lenni Lenape peoples. Just want to always have us remember that. So this evening we have a very special guest, Jerome Ellis. Jerome is a Grenadian, Jamaican American artist, surfer, and person who stutters. The artist works across music, performance, writing, video, and photography, and their body of work includes contemplative soundscapes using saxophone, flute, dulcimer, electronics, and vocals, as well as music video poems that seeks to transfigure archival documents. And in this performance, they will present portions of their latest transdisciplinary project called Aster of Ceremonies. Using piano, saxophone, electronics, and voice, they'll perform excerpts from Benediction, a devotional song cycle attending to the 18th and 19th century Black runaway slaves who stuttered. This lecture performance is an ongoing attempt, in the words of critic Hortense Spillers, to hear slavery's stutter more clearly. So the performance will be followed by a Q&A whenever Jerome is prepared to allow us to do a Q&A. And then we will have a reception upstairs in the lobby. So thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Maura, so much for your very, very kind introduction and for this invitation. As Maura said, thank you all for joining on this rainy and cold evening. Thank you for gathering here with me. I'll describe the space visually. I'm standing towards the front of the room here. On the walls is a newly hung exhibition of Soviet nonconformist art that is stunning, and I feel very, very lucky to be sharing space with these works. I want to thank Nicole for giving me such a generous tour of this exhibition, as well as Smoke and Mirrors, which I find just so stunning. And if you haven't seen it, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's open until next month. Yeah. I'll have more to say about that in a little bit. Up here with me is Hetty, one of our two ASL interpreters for the evening. The other is Adrian. Thank you both very much. There is a saxophone on a stand. There are some microphones. There is a stringed instrument called a hammered dulcimer that's wooden and is in the shape of a trapezoid. There's a grand piano. I'm standing at a podium, and I'm wearing a gown that is made of silk. It's white with black embroidery. It's handmade in Kenya. I invite, if anyone who is blind or low vision wants to touch the gown afterwards, you're welcome to, and anyone else is welcome to. It's very, very soft, and I love to wear it. It helps me feel confident and dignified. I have been living with a lot of depression lately and insomnia, and I've been feeling very ill, so wearing this garment helps me feel taken care of. I'm wearing shoes that I will take off. I'm a black person. My hair is black. My skin is brown. My beard is black. There's a screen behind me on which is projected text that reads, black text on a white screen that reads, scholars Janelle Navarro and Kimberly Robertson. And there's a quote from their amazing essay, The Countdown Remix, why two Native feminists ride with Queen Bey. And the quote from the essay is, our non-human kin are sometimes the family members with the greatest. Fugitive stands for resistance. And not last but not least, I'm holding in my hand a very, very cute stuffed hippo. She's lavender. Her name is Hildegard, and she's my service animal. My siblings gave her to my wife, Louisa, for Christmas a couple years ago, and Louisa, whom I love more than anything in this world, she very kindly lends Hildegard to me when I travel. I get homesick a lot, so Hildegard goes with me wherever I go. So she'll be up here with me. She's a little, she has a hard time standing up straight, so she just rests in the position that is best for her. As Maura very, very, very kindly introduced, I'll share a bit of work from this project, Aster of Ceremonies, and there are copies for sale afterwards too, if anyone wants to get one, and also copies of another book of mine, The Clearing, and I'll happily sign any if anyone wants. As I said, Nicole very generously took me on a tour of the exhibit Smoke and Mirrors earlier, curated by the amazing Amanda Cachia. And the artists in the exhibit are Emmanuel Omborg, All Text as Poetry, which is Bojana Kokliat, and Finnegan Shannon, Eric Benjamins, Kiki Brown, Fian Devi, Vanessa Dion, Fletcher, Suganda Gupta, Carmen Papalia, Liza Sylvester, Aslyn Thomas, Corbin Walker, and Cyrus Marcus Ware. And I want to thank all these artists for sharing their incredible work with us. And experiencing the work this afternoon, the artists in the show, they taught me so much about how to trust the body, and how to care for the body, how to celebrate the body. So I'm carrying those lessons with me into reading this evening. And I'm reading today in solidarity with the Palestinian and Lebanese people. I inherited my stutter from my mother. She inherited from her mother's side of the family in Jamaica. And through this work in Aster of Ceremonies, I've one of the questions that has guided me, and one of the questions that I have tried to preserve and give home to in the work is what does my body and my mother's body and her mother's body carry? What does that stutter that they have passed down to me like an heirloom, what does it carry? And my family, as well as many folks in different disability communities, have taught me to think about a disability not just housed or stewarded in a single body that I might refer to as my stutter, but as something that also happens in between bodies, and that is structured by and mediated by different levels of society. They've taught me to think of disability ancestrally, and that's what I've tried to do here. The next slide reads, poet Allison C. Rollins, and there are two quotes from two of her poems. The first reads, "Memory is an art form, forgetting is a science." This is from her poem, Overkill. And the second quote reads, "Tongue, the spoon the ancestors hold," from her poem, A Rock Trying to Stand. There's so much I could say about how much I've learned from Allison C. Rollins' work. I can't recommend highly enough her new book of poetry, Black Bell, which just came out. So she's guided me in asking, what does this stutter that I have inherited from my ancestors, who knows how far back, what does that stutter remember? What knowledge has been folded into that stutter? I'm thinking about the ways that Africans and specifically African women would braid seeds of okra, seeds of rice into their hair when taken through the middle a passage. That also as a form of carrying and inheritance. And the next slide reads, poet Emnor Bessie Phillip, another of the guides of this work. The slide reads, Zong, and then a quote telling the story that can't be told. Zong is the name of a book by the poet Emnor Bessie Phillip. For anyone who might not be familiar, the book is a book of poetry, and in it, Emnor Bessie Phillip, who was a practicing lawyer, as well as a poet, and still is a poet. She takes a 2-page legal document from the 18th century concerning a massacre of Africans aboard a slave ship. The ship captain and the ship owner are suing each other in an insurance claim case, claiming insurance on the cargo, in quotes, the people that they have killed. And this is the only written documentation we have of this unspeakable event. And so she asks how, as the slide says, how do you tell the story that can't be told? How do you tell the story of what happened when all you have is this legal document? And so what she does is as she says, she locks herself inside of the text and creates the book of poetry by restricting herself to only the words in the case, as well as anagrams of those words and parts of the words. And when I first encountered this book, I was so I felt so much resonance with this method of fracturing and fragmenting and rupturing texts that felt to me that it had some relation to how stuttering feels to me when I am stuttering. If the language that the stutter is interacting with, there are processes of rupture and fragmentation that I feel. And so I wanted to, as an experiment, apprentice myself to her method and apply it to a different set of documents. These I encountered in 2020 archive of, as Maura mentioned, these so-called runaway slave advertisements, newspaper notices that were placed by enslavers in the 18th and 19th centuries in the UK and the Caribbean, Latin America, the US. And the enslavers would place these notices when the people that they were enslaving escaped. And they were usually very brief, like a paragraph long. They were usually very expensive to place, and often included the name of the enslaved, but sometimes not even a name, a reward amount, a description of what they were last wearing, any physical characteristics that might make them more easily identified, like a scar or a stutter. And there's often a warning against people from harboring them, including a phrase that appears often: masters of vessels are forbid from harboring them. And that's where the title comes from. I wanted, Aster of Ceremonies, I wanted to attend to the aster flower within the word master. I'll show an image of the cover of the book, which I think is so beautiful. It's designed by the incredible artist Mary Austin Speaker. The cover is lavender in background and shows a hand-drawn illustration of aster flowers. They have light purple petals and yellow centers. The illustration is by the British artist Sydenham Edwards, and then white text on black. It reads Aster of Ceremonies, poems, Jerome Ellis. And of course, my name being the only name on the cover is an illusion, because of course I did not create the work by myself. It was created by many people, including Mary Austin Speaker, Antiqua Diker, who designed the book, Chris Martin, who edited it, Bailey Hutchinson, who stewarded the whole production process, and then Louisa Black Ellis, who I have the great privilege and honor of being married to. Louisa is, among many things, a poet and an ecologist. She's my favorite poet, and she copy edited every single plant name that appears in the book, and there are well over 1,000 plants that are named in the book, and she meticulously copy edited each one very generously. When I was in speech therapy with my speech therapist, Dr. Bajoyan, in 2012, she taught me a technique that you could call soft contact, where if I was stuttering on a word that began with a syllable where my lips had to meet, like a B or a P or an M, she said I could try saying that letter very, very, very softly to navigate the stutter. And so if I were trying to say the word brain, it might come out sounding like rain, and master might appear as Aster. So I wanted to follow what the stutter offers to language. So the next slide reads, Benediction, Movement 1, the choir chants. This part of the book, following this slide there will be, and this slide is our pages from the book. Benediction, I wanted to use this word because its root meaning means good speech, and I think other people who stutter sometimes feel my speech is not good. And it's also the name of a prayer that my aunt Cynthia and my grandfather, before he died at the age of 100. He was a reverend, and he was still giving sermons at that age. My mom's dad. At their church, the last part of the service was the benediction prayer. And as a child going to this church, I loved the language of it and his cadence. And I also loved that it meant that the service was ending. I've always struggled with church, and so it was always a moment of relief. But I loved hearing my grandpa say, and then he would walk down the aisle slowly towards the back of the storefront church. He would reach the back, and then the service would be over, and I could take off my little bow tie my mom made me wear and go eat my grandma's food, and it's very, very happy memory for me. So I wanted to carry my family with me in the work. So the next slide reads in italics, where's the prose? That will house our rigor. Where's the prose? That will house our stoppage. This text in italics is composed of words taken from these advertisements or parts of words. So the word prose comes from the word prosecute. And the word stoppage is a word that they use to refer to stuttering, a stoppage in speech. The next slide reads, where is the prose that will house our living? Where is the prose that will house our clothing? And clothing is spelled C-L-O-A-T-H-I-N-G because that's how they spelled it in the advertisement. And then the text shifts away from italics and reads, What name did Ancestor Lucy call herself? We do not know. We honor her relationship to her own name. And I write this, of course, because it was common practice for enslavers to rename the enslaved. Ancestor Lucy, I refer to the enslaved encountered in these advertisements as ancestors. I feel a spiritual ancestry with them, even if not blood, as Black people who stuttered or whose speech was interpreted as such, because of course we don't, the person who is saying that they stutter is the enslaver. So I also, in this ancestral practice of the work, also want to honor not just the ancestors' relationship with their name and that we don't know what that relationship was, but also their relationship with their own speech. According to the advertisement, she, quote, ran away, close quote, on March 19th, 1797, on or near land and water traditionally stewarded by, among others, the Sioux people, also known as Charleston, South Carolina. We honor the holiness of her speech and of her whole being. We thank all the plant elders for creating the oxygen as she breathed. And I want to thank the poet Alexis Pauline Gumbs. We had a conversation when I was in the early stages of this work, and she so generously reminded me of this oxygen and this breathing. The text returns to italics and reads, "The stutters may endeavor to return to the creek. Stutters born before April was born. Stutters may be before speaks, may be before April. Return may be before quest. Our reward is being in quest of stutters." There's a footnote here that reads, "Thank you, James Harrison Monaco, for helping me hear this." James is my closest and oldest friend and an amazing artist. Is a stutter an arbor of maybe? The arbor of maybe made I into our. And then the text shifts out of italics but into brackets and reads, "The drip comes out onto the porch of melisma in the sun on a new morning." Melisma, for anyone who might not be familiar, refers to vocal runs, when a singer sings more than one syllable per, or more than one note per a syllable. One of my favorite examples is Aretha Franklin's performance of Amazing Grace from her album, 1972 album, Amazing Grace. And so in the book, these bracketed sections are a score or description or an alt text for music And so on the audiobook, I don't read this text, but I play saxophone and flute and things. And because I'm here with you all, I can share some of the music too. So I'll play a little saxophone. Right now, I am preparing by moistening a reed, a little sliver of wood that I need in order to play the saxophone. The saxophone is the color of honey. I'm standing back at the podium. I want to take a moment to thank some of the many people who have made all this possible, including Amanda, Nicole, Barbara, Claire, Maura, Jesse, Brandon, Zach, Dwight, Will, Rachel, Tom, Teresa, Echo, and Roy. Yeah, I'm so grateful for all of y'all making this happen. And everyone who is doing the cart captions as well. And thank you for all you do to steward this place. It's my first time being here, and I just feel very lucky to be here witnessing all the amazing work y'all are doing here. The writer, Shai Thompson, wrote about music creating a home. And I think what they have guided me in and teach me about how to ask for help from poetry and music in creating a home or homes for the stutter that I steward. For most of my life, I felt a lot of shame and disgust about my stutter, and I wanted to be rid of it, and it felt like a burden and a problem and a curse. And I was taught to try to pray to be rid of it. And it has been through the guidance of so many people who stutter and other disabled folks have taught me how to enter into other forms of relationship to it, and how to try to build a classroom within myself in which I can learn more from the stutter. I think I'll share some text from Movement 2. So I'm scrolling through many slides. Movement 2 of the Benediction starts with this quote from the scholar Valentina Zimmerli. The proper name of God is a list. And then the slide reads Benediction Movement 2, octave, the choir chants. And I call it octave because this part is composed partly of a long prayer to over 1,000 plants. The text on this slide is in purple and reads, "We belong to you, Elder New Jersey tea, Cenothus americanus. We revere you, Elder Big Cordgrass, Spartina sinusoides. We praise you, Elder Late Flowering, Boneset, Eupatorium serratinum, We worship you, elder netted nutrush. We bow before you. We listen to you. We need you. And it goes on for many pages. These are all plants that live and have lived for a long time in and around Charleston, South Carolina. There's one of the ancestors in these advertisements. Her name was Betsy, and she spoke with a stutter. And I wanted to be in relation with her and think about the plants that she may have encountered for sustenance or medicine or shelter, pleasure, beauty. And threaded throughout this prayer of gratitude is a song with lyrics that are composed from the advertisement concerning Betsy, along with 7 others from the same newspaper issue. Advertisements concerning other things. Somebody loses an umbrella, somebody is selling some land. And I call the movement octave because of the musical meaning of the term, where it refers to 2 notes that are in some ways both the same and different. And the octave is also, I was thinking about this, in certain branches of the church, there's octaves as our festivals where a saint is revered for 8 days straight. So I'll sing a bit of this song, and I'll put the lyrics up here. I'll read them too. I'm reading a slide that reads, "Our stutters, vessels, carrying the body up a river to a swamp, a land so fertile for a name to grow. Each kernel of coffee has a name. Each green morning has a name. Each consequence, each no. Each yellow window that rings with evening has a name. Each name has a name written inside. Our stutters, libraries of river literature. Know its season has asked which questions. Know its season to be empty. Know its season has covered which questions. Know which season to be full. Which for paper, which for silk, which for ribbons, which for nails, which for book and which for glass, which for tea and which for coffee, which for swamp and which for river, which to be lost in and which to know the time, which for the umbrella and which for the umbrella to be lost. As someone who loses every umbrella that I come into contact with. So I'll sing on and play on the dulcimer. Stuttered vessel, carrying to swamp. A land so fertile, falling to grow. Each kernel of coffee has each green morning has a name. Each consequence, each no, each yellow window that rings with evening. Has a name. Each name has a name. Written inside. Our stutter's library of river literature. Know which season has asked which question. Know which season will be empty. No Caesar has covered which question? No, it seasoned closed door. Which for paper? And which for silk? Which for ribbons? And which for nails? Which for bull? And which for glare? Which for tea? Which for tea? And which for coffee?
which for swamp and which for river. Oh, which we lost and which to know the time. Which for the umbrella, and which for the umbrella to be loved. I'm back at the podium now, and I will read movement 3 of the Benediction. The slide reads, Ancestor Neptune, what name did you call yourself? I do not know. I honor your relationship to your own name. I am grateful to have found this newspaper advertisement in the Jamaica Mercury because it allows us to encounter and commemorate you. According to the ad, you and a group of other ancestors began a journey in November 1779 on and near land and water traditionally stewarded by, among others, the Taino people, also known as Above Rocks, Jamaica. The ad says you, quote, stammered much in your speech, close quote. I honor and celebrate your speech. I inherited from my stutter from my mother, who is Jamaican. Did she and I inherit our stutter from you? Are you our blood ancestor? In Jamaica, there is a saying, make me ears eat grass. It means give me some peace and quiet, some rest. The name of this silence, these grasses and this wind. We thank all the plant elders for creating the oxygen you breathed. And the word grass and the word grasses appear in purple. Throughout the book, the words of plants appear in purple. I remember as a child, my mom showing me how the words of Jesus in the New Testament were in red, and I wanted to adapt that process of lending respect through color. And was also guided in that by the poet Adam Walfond, whose book was published in the same series as Aster of Ceremonies. His book is called The Wanting Way. I love it so much, so nourishing. And Hannah Emerson's book is the first in that series, called The Kissing of Kissing. Cannot recommend them highly enough either. I'll sing a song on the piano that I used to play for my maternal grandparents before they died. The lyrics are, why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and longing for home? When is my portion a constant friend? The eye is on the sparrow, and I don't know. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. The eye is on the sparrow, and I don't know. Should I feel discouraged? And why should share? Yeah, he's on. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I feel in the spirit. I say because I'm happy. I say because I'm free. Yeah, yeah,
And to close, I'll just walk around the room playing a little bit of saxophone. I'm just going to do one more short little piece on the piano. It's just such a joy to play this piano, and I want to play one more time. My many thanks to whoever tuned it. It's incredible. So I'll just do just a very short piece here. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. So generous of you. Yeah, as Maura mentioned, happy to have, if there are any questions or comments or anything, no pressure, but I'm happy to answer any. And also, I'll be there. There'll be a reception afterwards, and I'll be there, and so you can ask me anything there too if you like. But I just want to thank you all so much for spending this time with me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jerome. Again, amazing performance. So we have time for some questions or comments. I'll pass around the mic, or I can get us started. Oh, I have a question. So I was reading the book last night at home, and of course did not have your presence with me in my apartment reading it. So I'm kind of curious about what are your, I guess, like what do you imagine someone who's reading this without the music, without the voice? Like, what is the experience on the page?
Yeah.
Because it's such a complex page, right?
Yeah.
As you showed us with purple text, different kinds of sheet music, just so much visually going on.
Yeah.
I just kind of, what do you imagine someone in their room, maybe a more solitary experience?
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon, so much. Yeah. I think one thing that I hope people feel encouraged to do with it, the book itself, is to I tried to create something that was that had different like doorways into the work. Like there's some essays and there's some shorter poems and there's longer poems, and yeah, there's like music and there's the audiobook. And so what I tried to do is like create something that feels that that like has different points through which you can access it, and that there's like no one right way to read it, and that I hope people feel free to read it non-linearly, or like one page and that and maybe they're like that's all I needed. And I feel like it feels like a meal that I tried to cook, and perhaps there's something in or like a big spread of different foods, and maybe there's something that you like might take a little taste. But I mean, and I think something that I love about books is just like, it's the reader. It's like you being with the book in your apartment that brings it to life, of course. I feel like the book is a seed that is watered by the reader. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sally?
That was incredibly beautiful, and the word instrument keeps coming up, right? Your voice as an instrument, the instruments as an instrument, and I'd love to hear, what was your pathway into which instruments even, and that transition?
Yeah. Sally, right? Yes. And thank you for all that you do here, Sally. Yeah, thank you for your question. There's a phrase in the book, or I say that I try to treat this book as a musical instrument of unknowing. And that language has helped me a lot, because what I try to do is ongoingly is to unlearn things that I have learned about many things, including my relationship with my stutter, and also just like the like unlearn the what anti-blackness and racism hold to be true. Of course, these advertisements are appearing like what is making possible. Somebody they puts literally right next to the advertisement concerning Ancestor Lucy, for example, there's an advertisement, say, for somebody who lost their notebook. The conditions, of course, for them losing, they're able to place that ad is that they believe that they possessed their notebook, they lost, and they want it back. And the same logic, of course, carries over to the enslaved. And of course, as many people, including the historian Saidiya Hartman, reminds us, of course, that even though, the Emancipation Proclamation happened, of course, that logic is still very much, that logic of enslavement is still very much at play. And so, I think what I've been interested in is like, unlearning that logic, unlearning the certain ableist logics, certain anti-black logics, and in that process of unlearning, resisting the urge to fill what I have unlearned with new things that I'm learning. I've been trying to practice like unknowing, which I'm trying to find not a better word, but another word. But I've been trying to practice, yeah, just like being with what I don't know, and the instruments, the piano, the saxophone, and the dulcimer, they, for me, are like these like landscapes that I go into like a forest, and they have so much to teach me, and I learned so much from them, and the way that they, you know, they hold so much possible music in them. Yeah, so I try to see them as teachers, and the stutter likewise, like the stutter as itself a musical instrument, also that holds, like, you know, the saxophone was invented in the 19th century, but the hammered dulcimer is at least, has been around for at least 1,000 years. What wisdom has it acquired in that time? And likewise, like what wisdom has the stutter acquired? And how might I learn from it? So, yeah, thank you, yeah. There was a question back here.
Hello. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Your music was beautiful. I really appreciate that. So now, I don't know if this is an allowed question, but I wanted it to, if you permit me, like ask you, how do you pronounce your name? And does it hold any meaning? Like what, if that is permitted, I don't know if that's relevant.
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words and for asking. I spell it, so if anyone hasn't seen the way I spell my name, I spell it with 5 J's usually. And I say it Jerome, but I stutter on my name very often. It's the word that I stutter on the most and always have. And it's a very intense experience. And there's an essay in the book about it, about stuttering on my name. So I started spelling it like that a few years ago to register that the stutter appears so often in my name. The artist Jerome Herman is actually is one of the people who taught me how to do that. I've long been inspired by people like Bell Hooks, who the writer Bell Hooks, who spells her name with all lowercase letters. And I was with Jerome, and he observed to me that he was like, oh, the way, like, because you stutter so often on your name, the way it's normally spelled with just 1 J doesn't reflect the stutter in a certain way. And I found that so beautiful. So that's why I started spelling like that. But I invite people to pronounce it like some people will like say Jerome, like they'll pronounce it like that, and I love that. So I accept any way of pronouncing it. I usually, I say Jerome, but it usually is preceded by an interval of silence. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. I've heard you at the Whitney, and I've heard you at the Kitchen, and I'm hearing you here in New Jersey.
Oh.
Really deeply beautiful, and in these very tough times, just something is helping me, and I think a lot of us. I wanted to talk about the melisma, which you brought out in one of the texts, because it's such an interesting idea. My example, I guess, we have the Messiah coming up, I will shake many notes to that one syllable. And it makes me think about your expression, which is sometimes many sounds and a stretched out sense of time with one syllable or one utterance. And to me, it makes us slow down time in a way that requires patience. And I have the awful task this time, this semester, of moving through to Penn Station at rush hour, which is, there's no time. You get pushed, you get shoved, you know, people do not wait for you. You and your time to move into the station. So I'm trying to create small spaces, like on the train, to just say thank you to someone who's sitting next to me, or to recognize where they are. They have a cane, and they cannot move quickly out the door soon enough, so try to help that person. But and also seeing the exhibition upstairs and your two video pieces, also the one where you are transcribing your own words, and just seeing that act, like when you have the moment of stutter and then the letter D, for example, that D comes really fast. But it also gives me, as someone thinking about your work, and I was taking a lot of notes, it gives me that time, because I cannot write fast enough in the time that we normally speak. So what you're doing when you speak is, I think, giving us the gift of time, which is really precious.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I so appreciate that. Yeah, so meaningful. Thank you.
Any other questions? Or maybe we can take a break, 'cause I know, Jerome, that was a lot of work on your part, so maybe we take a break, and Jerome will have books upstairs and for sale, both Aster of Ceremonies and The Clearing, so we'll get time to move upstairs, have more conversation. There will be a reception, so some libations, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, and some treats. So let's thank Jerome again.
Thank you all so much.